One of the themes we have in Ultimate Impact is called Next Steps. You know what? We're all on a journey, right? And if you're a Christian, if you're a God seeker, a Jesus chaser, then you're on a journey to become like Jesus with the ultimate reward of ending up in heaven, right? And in this life, we focus on being like Jesus in every way we can. But you know what? Just like on any interstate that you could find, there are people at different places on that interstate, and some are closer to their destination than others, and some are just getting on the interstate. They're just starting their trip. So for us, and especially when we think about inside of mentoring groups, we've talked about how it's okay to have people at different places in their spiritual maturity. We all have different backgrounds. We all have different histories. We all have different personalities. We all have different spiritual gifts, maybe some specific callings that are a little different from someone else, a niche ministry or something like that. So we can't always take the one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to a customized spiritual growth plan. But here's what we can do. We can ask God in our personal time, God, what is the next step that you want me to take that's going to draw me closer to you? And maybe we get that answer in the next time we're reading our Bible study, or maybe God prompts something into our hearts or into our minds, and we say, oh, this is the next step God wants me to take. So once we have that revealing, what we do is we share that with our mentoring group, and we say, the next thing I'm going to be working on to get closer to God is, and then we say it. And as I mentioned in a previous video, a lot of our accountability questions can revolve around next steps. What are we working on in our spiritual life that by the grace and power of God we're going to accomplish, and it's going to make us more mature and draw us into a deeper, intimate relationship with God and to be more effective as disciples. So next steps is important. Now, because we're all at different places, we will all have different next steps. If you're working on your marriage, then maybe your next step, and maybe some accountability questions out of that is, how are you treating your spouse? If you have kids, are you loving and disciplining and training and taking care of your kids? It could be a lot of things. If you're working on something completely different over here, you're going to have a different set of questions that you're asking yourself all the time. So when we come together in the mentoring groups, we already kind of know what everybody's working on because we've been talking about it. And if someone actually gets to a point where they're like, okay, I've accomplished this goal and it's now set in my life and it's a regular thing, I'm going to ask God for another next step. And we just keep doing this over and over again because life is a journey and we never quite arrive in this life. Now, we will arrive on the last day when we stand before God on the, in the throne room where He's telling us, hopefully, well done, my good and faithful servant, right? So, but in this life, we're constantly looking for next steps. We're constantly trying to find, what else can I do to get closer to God? How else can I be a more effective disciple? How else can I gain more maturity? How can I have more influence in this world for God? Next steps are the natural questions to ask to get to the place that God wants you to be. More mature, more Christ-like, more holy, all the things that God has told us are important for us. So both in your personal life and in your mentoring groups, be sure you focus on next steps a little bit each time so that we're all growing where we need to grow.